Hey there, everybody, welcome back. It's Enigmatic Entertainment back again with another video. This time I'm going to be going over an experience that I had recently and using my experience, knowledge, wisdom, things that I've learned through research and from speaking with people and whatnot about buying a used vehicle. Now, this is something that is something that we basically all do, or not all of us, but a large majority of us will at some point buy a used vehicle. So, here we go. Number one, keep in mind about, well, this is something I can't help you with, but because this is probably up to you, but your income. Know your income well. Know your budget well. What can you afford? What can you not afford? It might seem simple, but I'm going to be going over the basics as well. If you already know this stuff, then that's fine. But for the people that don't, this is something that can be a lifesaver, a money saver rather, Like I said in the previous video, finance, I try to know at least the basics and whatnot. Be responsible. Hey, can you blame me? Know your income. Know what you can afford to spend. I'm just going to throw out some numbers. They might not make all that much sense, but I'm going to be just doing it real quick off the top. Let's say that you can afford overall to spend on your vehicle per month. Let's say you can afford to spend about $500. All right. So keep in mind that with buying a used vehicle or financing a vehicle at all, because this is going over financing. If you're buying it in cash, this is not the video for you. You don't really need one because it's a lot different of a process. Simpler, I'd say. So if you're financing a used vehicle, you're going to want to make sure that you know all the fees and prices and all that stuff that go along with it. Of course, there's what they call a car note, the monthly car payment towards the auto loan. Let's say, like I said, you only have $500 to spend. Okay, well, keep in mind that might be somewhere between $200 to $300, depending on how much the car costs and your interest rates and whatnot. Your car insurance. If you're younger, new to driving, or have a bad driving record, your car insurance will be more. Also, keep in mind that you need full coverage, comprehensive coverage, whatever they call it, in your company, your country, whatever. You need full auto coverage, not just the basic. So that means you're going to be charged more. My car insurance went up a good 50% or so, needing complete coverage, full coverage compared to what I had on my previous vehicle. Keep that in mind. So let's say you were paying $100, but you're going up to $150 now. That's a 50% increase, but full coverage. So let's take that $200 to $300 plus that $150. Let's say that you're somewhere between, let's just say you're at $400 for argument's sake, right? And now you got to factor in, you said $500 you have, right? I mean, now you're already at $400. That's just the car note and insurance. Keep in mind that things also come along with it, like, keeping the car clean, keeping it maintenance, and keeping it full of gas, obviously. So let's say that's another $100 a month right there. Boom, there's your whole $500. And these are obviously just random numbers, but I'm just giving you an example of how quick that money can really go. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Just keep in mind your budget, your income. Is it stable? Is it consistent? And how much you can really afford to spend and still save, especially towards things that might come up like accidents and, needing repairs and stuff like that, Now we get into the actual part involved with the purchasing and things of that nature. First step with that is really doing your research. Now, you can do it online, which is where typically most people do it nowadays. You can also do it, ask around, drive around, whatever you see fit. There's plenty of apps for it. Just a few apps related to car buying that I would personally recommend and have used myself are Car Guru, Carfax, Cars.com, Kelly Blue Book, Edmunds, and Craigslist, and I believe True Car. And of course, there's a few other like Carvana, CarMax, NADA, NADA, so on and so forth. These are all websites or apps that you can use related to cars, like buying, selling, researching different vehicles and whatnot information. And that's all available online with a quick Google search. So keep those in mind, and I'll leave some links in the description box below, of course, as well. Do your research. Figure out, of course, what you can afford. Like I said, that was the beginning. figure out also what size vehicle you want. Do you want a, a sedan, a coupe or a four-door? Do you want a SUV, sports utility vehicle? Do you want a crossover vehicle, which is like in between a sedan and a SUV? You want a pickup truck, a sports car? Like, what do you want? What do you need? Are you a family man? Do you need a minivan? Do you need a lot of space for the children and, equipment and whatnot? Furniture. I myself, no children, anything like that. Single guy. Food shopping, things of that nature. I had a compact car, but I wanted like a little bit bigger. So a mid-size is the one that I got. Just a little bit slightly bigger, more space in the trunk, more space for, groceries, things of that nature. More spacious, thing like that, but not bigger, not like a big jump in size. And of course, you have to factor in what you're comfortable driving yourself. Who's going to be in the car with you. And of course, like I said before, what you can afford. So break that down. See what makes offer the vehicle size and style that you want. Let's just go for argument's sake, since this is a pretty popular car. Let's just say that you're a single guy like me and you want a mid-size vehicle. All right, Toyota Camry. So, all right, you've nailed it down to Toyota Camry. It's a mid-size vehicle from Toyota, one of those popular car makers in the world for years now. And now the next thing is your trim level. What kind of trim do you want? The trim level, typically, there's a whole bunch of different ones. Like, I'm going to just go over some real quick, honestly, because there's a freaking lot of them. Like, there's LE, DX, LS, EX, GL, GT, all these freaking ones. XLE, I think. There's a whole bunch of different ones, honestly. And different makes and models have different trim levels. Trim levels apparently, or typically rather, are what features it'll have compared to a lower or higher trim. There's the base trim is the lowest level one, least number of features that it has. And then you can go up and up and up, and then it'll typically be like, top, and that's like typically considered like fully loaded and all that stuff. And it'll have a lot more equipment in it compared to a previous one. A few things that can be in a trim level, it could be like heated seats, a sunroof, a different like liter engine and whatnot, a whole bunch of different stuff, honestly. And I mean, hey, depends. It might have various things on the outside that make it look more stylish or whatnot, For example, there's like the sport trim also. So, it depends. They can cost anywhere from like a few $100s more to $1,000 or more for a higher trim, but you're paying for those features. Like built-in camera and higher premium speaker system, navigation system, so on and so forth. And leather, different colors, all that stuff. So, yeah, that's trim levels. Find out what trim you want. If you don't care about features, you can basically just skip all that I just said for the past 2 minutes. If you just want a basic vehicle, you want to be more affordable, skip all that stuff. It's not important. I want the specific certain features, so I was looking into that for my own personal research, of course. And I know a lot of people are a little bit more particular, especially because they'll be buying a vehicle they'll be using usually for a few years or longer, and maybe passing it down on to someone else in the family as well. And you want them to have something, pretty good as well. So that's trim levels. All right, let's say you broke down, you got the trim level you want. You got the LE, the SE, the limited edition, the sport, so on and so forth. Next up is figure out what you're going to do with your current vehicle. If you have a current vehicle. If you don't have one yet, then of course, whatever, you're buying a vehicle for the first time. Figure out if you want to trade in your vehicle or if you want to sell it to a private seller. Maybe you find one on Craigslist. Maybe a family friend or something like that wants your current vehicle and you're buying a new one. Maybe you just want to use some app to try to sell it. Whatever. It is what it is. But make sure that's another important step in, getting some of that cash back towards your new vehicle. So, you're going to trade it into a dealer. If you're going to do that, then look online how much you can get for it from a prior seller versus a dealer. Make sure you're not getting ripped off by the dealership or anything like that. Just compare the money you can get compared to the time you're saved. You will save time trading it into a dealer rather than finding someone to buy it. Typically, you'll save time that way, but you will get more money on the average by selling it to a private buyer rather than a dealer. Also, the paperwork involved with trading into a dealer and selling to a private buyer is also a little bit different. So keep all those things in mind for when you make your purchase. Now, next up is, of course, once again, private seller dealership. If you're buying it from a private seller, pretty sure you're buying it in cash, which goes back to what I said at the beginning. If you're buying a car in cash, you're not financing it, so a lot of the stuff just isn't going to be relevant to you because it's a very simple one transaction. You're done, and you don't need to worry about dealerships and like all that business and loans and stuff. So if you get it from a private buyer, there's certain things that are obviously always going to be the same no matter what when you're buying a car. So moving on, regardless of which one you go to, you're going to want to, okay, you picked out the vehicle. We said it was a Toyota Camry, let's say LE. All right, I found it. Look up the year. Very important also, look online and see reviews about that specific car, make and model and trim, and see if there were any consistent or frequent situations that occurred with it of pieces and parts that broke down in particular, so you know what you're getting yourself into. I looked up that a specific make and model, I'm not going to name, had a lot of problems from the years of like 2011 to like 2015 or something like that. Around there was a lot of problems, and for that make and model, they're not recommended at all. So get a year before or after, basically, because it had much less problems and it was much more highly reviewed. So in that situation, I was like, all right, good. I'm glad I looked this up. I want to have something that is reliable and is not going to cost a lot of maintenance and is not going to be very likely to break down on me or have any accidents, part malfunctions or anything like that. So that's important as well to look up. There are websites you can look that stuff up online. And once again, I'll probably leave that in the description box below. You could check it out. Also, you found all that, you look it up, car is good reviews. Now, like I said, we're going with dealership. So look up the dealership. Are there negative reviews, positive reviews? Keep that all into consideration. Who did they talk to at the front desk? Who was the salesperson? Who did they talk to about finance? Did they talk to the manager of it? How was he? What interactions? How was the place? Was it clean? Was it dirty? Was it, where's the location? Is it far from you? Hours? Get all this information so you know what you're getting yourself into, and you can walk in there, whether you have an appointment or it's a walk-in, you can walk in there feeling fully comfortable and ready to do your purchase, do your negotiation. So, all right, moving on. All right, positive reviews. Freaking, this guy is a great salesperson. He was very honest. He was very passionate. He was very helpful, consistent, and knowledgeable. All right, awesome. Freaking awesome, honestly. So, moving on. Now, you have your appointment, or you just walked in. All right, you talk to the dealer, the salesperson. Now, you find out if they have that car. You can call them over the phone. Sometimes, they'll tell you, oh, I don't know, or they be like, oh, it just sold, or they'll tell you it's there, but then you get there and it's not, and they say they just sold it. They can come up with a whole bunch of BS and lies and excuses and all that stuff, but we're just going to go with the fact that, let's say they do have it. If they don't have it, then, of course, you just rinse, wash, and repeat and go to a different dealership. If the vehicle you want isn't there, look at another one if you want, but that's, of course, solely up to you. I would look at another one real quick and then probably leave. That's what I've done in my experience, because I go there for a purpose. I had a specific vehicle in mind. So, okay, they have the car. Now, you test drive it. A few red flags. For one, if they're not wanting you to test drive the vehicle for any reason, especially if they try to tell you like, oh, let's talk about numbers first, and and we want to make sure you're a serious buyer and all that other nonsense. Typically that's a red flag. They shouldn't be trying to push you into a sale for something that you haven't even test drove yet, because this is a big purchase. You should be able to drive it. Secondly, some people do, some people don't. It is recommended, though, get a third-party mechanic to inspect the vehicle. Now, whether they come there and inspect it themselves, or do you bring it to a mechanic shop and they do it there, that, of course, will have to be negotiated and worked out with the salesperson and the dealership itself. But that's up to you if you feel like this car needs to be inspected. Typically, for a car that's like brand new, of course, you wouldn't need to do that. But like I said, this is used vehicles, so you might want to get it inspected, especially if it's like an older vehicle and you're not too certain about it. Better to be safe rather than sorry, even if you have to pay the mechanic a little bit and you have to take some extra time and whatnot. Err on the side of caution, as I always say. All right, so if they're trying to deny you and say no, you won't let you get it inspected for any reason, that's the second red flag. Definitely off the top. Another red flag, thirdly, if they're like rude, condescending in any way, they're too busy doing stuff like bragging about their previous sales and how much money they make, or how good of a salesman they are, or anything like that. Or they're really trying to force you and push you onto a specific car, or anything like that you're not comfortable with. Of course, third red flag, you want them to make you feel comfortable, safe, and secure, and professional. Of course, you want to walk away with a feeling of professionalism and courtesy and respect. Those are just a few red flags. There are a few more. There's a few more, but they're pretty obvious for the most part, and I'm going to get down into another one or two of them in a moment. Next up, you test drive the vehicle. All right. This is another one. Test drive it. Typically, the salesperson will be in the front with you or in the back. Depends on the situation if you have anybody with you. And of course, bring somebody with you if you are not comfortable dealing with a salesperson, whether it's because of anxiety purposes or, just because they are more knowledgeable in the situation. Bring them with you. I typically bring someone with me, even myself, just for, loneliness purposes, if nothing else, have someone to talk to. And to go over things with and to check things out as well. Two sets of eyes are better than one, So, hey. So, like I said, you test drive. All right. Make sure that you try to test drive it out for more than just like 2 or 3 minutes. Don't just go around the block and come back. And then if they're like, oh, well, hey, it's good, right? No. If they're trying to rush you, tell them that you're not going to make a purchase unless you get, you feel more comfortable with the test drive. While you're test driving, also ask questions about the vehicle while you're driving. Don't get too distracted because you also want to listen for any kind of mechanical noises that you will hear in the vehicle. Screeching, any kind of any noise that's off. Is that simple. For those that have already driven cars before, you sure already know what kind of noises I'm speaking about. And for those that don't, this is why I say bring someone with you so they can hear the noises themselves in person, because that might be something that the dealer or the car salesman doesn't really mention, So it's always good to bring somebody with you that has their eyes and ears open, knows what to look for. Also, of course, one thing that's very obvious, also look for any leaking. When you drive the vehicle out of the spot it was parked at, check underneath real quick, see if there's any leaking, any dripping, oils, fluids, anything like that. That's another obvious red flag for the car itself, not for the salesperson, but that's the obvious red flag. Ask them if there's any mechanical issues. They might just tell you the truth and be like, oh yeah, there's this and that. Or they might tell you the truth and say there's none. Either way, they might be lying and tell you there's none when there is. But you can't blame them if you never asked. So always ask and just try to find out for certain. It can't hurt to ask the question. Also ask them, basic stuff. How many owners does the car have? Stuff like that. Is the Carfax available? When's the last time this got replaced? That got replaced. The brake pads, wipers, just random stuff. Are the fluids topped off? Anything you could think of that you might be curious about or interested in or a little concerned about, just feel free to ask the salesperson that's test driving with you. They should be able to answer all those questions. Another red flag that I mentioned before that I was going to get to, if they really can't answer these questions, like these simple, basic questions really, then that's another red flag. Because as a salesperson that's probably been with people that test drive that vehicle and plenty others at least a few times, like in the past few days, they should know these things. And if not know them off the top of their head, they should be able to tell you, I will tell you as soon as possible. I will go and get the information. If they can't do that, another red flag. Okay, so also make sure that you test drive it on the road, on the highway, at speed, slower, test out, of course the brakes, obvious, acceleration, all the gears, parking, reversing, neutral, all that stuff. Make sure that all works, the parking brake. Check the heating, check the air conditioner, check the speakers, make sure they work, check the trunk, make sure it's not completely dirty, full of junk, anything like that. You never know what could happen. I'm sure some shady dealerships out there are not as, cleanly with their vehicles. Of course, not saying this to anyone in particular. It's just, is this possible? You know what I mean? So you just want to be sure and certain. Check the tires, make sure they're not flat. Dealerships, of course, just be keeping all this stuff maintenance and whatnot, but it doesn't hurt to be vigilant and aware and on your square, on point at all times when it comes to doing these business negotiations. Some of it might be obvious, but like I said, I'm just pointing out even the more basics of things because this is supposed to be for, basics and beginners. So you test drive it, everything's sounding and looking good, and make sure obviously there's no things like mold or anything like that also that'll give off some kind of odor, because that is by its sign as well that something in the car is probably pretty damn wrong. But that's a whole other thing. And of course, now's the part where you take it back and you negotiate. It's always better, or not always better, but it's typically better to come in with your own pre-approved loan with as best of an APR as you can get based on, of course, your income and your credit score. Once again, I have a video about credit already that I posted a while back. For those that need credit help, go check that one out. And so the better your credit score is, the better APR, which is the interest, of course, that you get, and the less that you pay overall on your loan. For used vehicles, the APR is typically somewhere, I believe, somewhere between 4 and up, I believe, for used vehicles. I myself managed to get like a little bit over 6 based on my credit score and whatnot. I could have got better, but a certain few situations weren't as good as I would have liked, but so try to get as low as APR as you can. Shop around for a loan. Or if you don't want to deal with that and you want the dealership to do it, they of course can. They will look at different financial institutions, credit unions, banks, and all that offer financial auto loans, and they can do that for you. And that settles that. Now comes down to the actual part, the negotiation. Make sure that you did a look around, you inspected the car yourself. Keep note of anything that is wrong with the vehicle and use that as leverage to try to lower the price a bit, because off rip, these are one of those places that marks things up and overcharges you. So it's perfectly fine to try to negotiate and haggle with the price, because it definitely can come down at least a little bit from the sticker price or the online price. Sometimes they vary. They might have online sales and whatnot. So try to knock it down a little bit. Maybe a few $100, $1,000, $2,000, depends on, of course, the overall price of the vehicle, how much it can come down. The higher it is, typically the more it can come down. The cheaper it is, the less they're usually willing to knock off. And that, once again, that all depends on the specific dealer, the salesperson, the car itself. You have to come up with your own little ways to try to, to make sure that you're confident and respectful. You don't want to be rude or discourteous or anything like that, especially if they're not being that way to you. But you have to come up with your own little tips and tricks as far as doing that. But just keep in mind that it typically can come down in price at least a little bit. Now, keep in mind that there are things that they throw in, like little fees. Because at this point, remember, we're going off the fact that you are getting the car. And I actually still have my... Here we go. My estimate. Whole bunch of numbers here. Bear with me. So there's fees involved with buying a car as well, on top of just the car itself. There's I'm gonna just go over 3 of them real quick, because these are ones that I personally have had on my purchase, so I can speak from experience. There's tax. Okay, nothing to say about tax. It's automatic. The state has to pay it. The dealership has to pay the state, and so on and so on. Tax. Nothing you can really do about that. That's not a ripoff or a scam from the dealership. That's a ripoff from, the country. You know what I mean? So don't worry about tax. You got to pay that. That's, of course, going to be based on the car price itself, like always. Now, these other 3 fees are what are typically negotiable in some way. There's doc fee, prep fee, and license and title fee. There's other fees as well, but like I said, I haven't personally experienced them in my purchase, so I won't speak too much on them. But I will, once again, there'll be links in the description box below, and you can also do your own research for those. But doc fee, that's a fee they charge for all the documentation, printing out various contracts and whatnot for you to sign, the paperwork that they have to give you, make copies for their own records, send to the DMV, send to the, the financial institution, for the auto loan, all that stuff basically that goes along with it. Okay, I get it, paper, ink, all that stuff, blah, 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 blah. We get it. All right. That is, some states have it a regulation where they can't charge more than a certain amount. So once again, there are sites that show you what the average dock fee is for your state and the max that they can charge. I'm in a state where there is no max, so they can charge you whatever they want to freaking charge you, unfortunately. But once again, there's sites that show you the average. So if you're paying the average, then it's not too bad. If they're trying to charge you an exorbitant amount past that, definitely talk them down from that. Or once again, use your leverage of not having signed anything, because that's very important. Keep this in mind. You have not signed any contracts yet. Do not sign anything until you work the numbers. Work the numbers. Make sure that what you talked about is the same thing on the paper, and what you're signing is the same thing. That there's no, you sign this, but this is the numbers that they showed you originally. Make sure that everything links up, syncs up. If you need somebody next to you to read it and go over it with you too, and the finance person, do that. If it takes a little bit longer, do that. I spent hours. I spent a while in that dealership. Went back more than one occasion, having conversations, discussing things, talking it over before signing anything. Once you sign, they kind of have you and you lose the power to just, walk away from the situation. So just keep that in mind. Also, like I said, dock fee, look it up. If you're a state that has a limit, make sure you're paying that limit and no higher. If there's a state where there's no limit, make sure you're paying the average at most. If not, pay none at all if possible, but they're not going to let you walk away probably with paying none, because almost every single dealership, as far as I know, has dock fees. So you really can't get around that. Next is prep. They gave me a prep fee. Originally, it was like this crazy fee, this way high. I had them, take some money off of that because I knew they shouldn't even be charging that much to begin with, honestly. The way he explained it, prep, because, we're cleaning it, we're detailing it, cleaning out the inside, making it nice and shiny and all the other BS. And I was like, okay, whatever. All that spiel and stuff. Okay, fine. But once they lowered it, I said, okay, fine. This is what they're going to do. Pretty much every dealership is going to do this BS. As long as they dropped it from here down to here, that's a lot more manageable. That's a lot more affordable. And let's just get those over with, And basically, the other fee is license and titling. This is another one that's pretty commonplace and is something that is automatic, basically. You have to pay license and registration. That part of that is for like the title and goes to the DMV and whatnot. Sometimes they overcharge you for that. They basically play with the numbers and they charge you more for this and then take it off there, so that they're still getting like the same amount they wanted. But make sure you read the numbers, read the freaking numbers. I said it 3 times so you know that I'm serious. Read the numbers 4 times. Okay, cool. So once again, check all that stuff out. Look for any extras. Sometimes they're trying to get you to do VIN etching. Sometimes it's called something else. Depends on the dealership, depends on the state and whatnot. They charge you like $200 for that. At least it was for me. I told them I don't want that. Okay, cool. Other stuff like maybe premium. They want you to pay for like their advertising. That's a fee that you really shouldn't pay for. They want you to pay for transportation. That's another fee you shouldn't be paying for. There's other ones. Look it up online and you can see more details. Ask somebody else. They could tell you the same thing as well. Also, a lot of this stuff can depend on your state. So keep in mind, your mileage may vary. YMMV. So if in doubt, hit Google. All right. But no, seriously. Once everything is good and you feel like you're not being ripped off and you have looked at making sure they're not adding any extras, no extra fees that are crazy ridiculous, go ahead, sign the papers, make sure that you get the key, get a spare key. Make sure that, they did stuff like fill up the gas tank, top off the fluids, cleaned out the inside and out of the car, wax it down, make sure that everything is good to go, and you're good. You have your used vehicle, and be happy with it. Also, be aware that they will sometimes try to get you to get extended warranties and whatnot. That, once again, is something up to you. If it's not too expensive and you feel like it'll be worth it, because the maintenance fees for that vehicle are typically a little higher, and the extended warranty, make sure that you find the details about that. What is covered in the warranty? How much is it going to cost you? And of course, find out where you can go to get it fixed, what kind of wait time they have, and what kind of things they offer you, like rental cars, and things of that nature while they're fixing your car. Look at the turnaround time, like how fast can get it fixed, make an appointment, and things of that nature. Do they offer towing, roadside assistance? Get that stuff all figured out beforehand, of course, as well, because that's one of those extra things, extended warranty, bumper to bumper, powertrain, all that stuff. It's just another one of the things that they try to sell you. Sometimes it's worth it, sometimes it's not. It's completely up to you. If you're a warranty insurance type of person, then you are. And of course, that's all for now. I can ramble on a little bit more about it, but I think I'm done for now. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys liked it. I'm sure that, I had at least something insightful to impart onto you guys. And of course, thank you for watching as always. Stay tuned for more because more is on the way. More content coming on another day. And of course, like always, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Follow the channel on Instagram, Twitch, and Twitter. And of course, I have a Discord server. Like usual, you guys want to join, come chill, kick it with me. It's all good. I'm typically on there anyway. And of course, click the thumbs up button if you like the video, because that helps. And leave a comment in the comment section below if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. And once again, I'm Enigmatic Entertainment, and I'm out. I'll catch you guys another day. Thank you. Boom, baby, boom. Enjoy your car.